and welcome back to another episode of Franchise Euphoria. Josh Brown here. Today's episode is brought to you by Franchise 5. Why Franchise 5? I'm glad you asked. Growing your franchise in a slow, deliberate, and thoughtful manner is a smart way to grow. Franchise 5 helps you do this by expanding 5 locations at a time with a Zen-like focus on the geographic locations that make sense for your growth. To learn more about this, go to franchiseeuphoria.com/franchise5. That's the number 5. So franchiseeuphoria.com/franchise5. Now to today's episode. Excited. I've got Alan Michael McKenna on today as a guest. He's a highly accomplished and successful marketing and sales strategist with over 20 years experience in turning companies around and exploding their growth. He has a proven track record for helping companies attain massive revenue increases, slash marketing costs, and grow their bottom line profits through innovative sales and marketing strategies. He's originally from England, and you'll hear his wonderful accent, but he's managed the marketing nationally for a $60 million UK company before being transferred to the US, where he helped market and launch the English Conservatory to the USA and quickly helped grow that business from 0 to 20 million annually, even accelerating the annual revenues of one office by almost 60% in just 8 weeks. He lives in California. And he's established his own sales and marketing consulting company where he helps clients create 6- and 7-figure sales funnels and has driven more than $30 million in additional revenues for his clients. He lives from the principle of constant and never-ending improvement, both personally and professionally, and is dedicated to conscious and sustainable business practice and growth. And I can tell you this, my interview with him, I think you're going to find very instructive. We focus on 2 things. First, we focus on how people in the franchise space, franchisees, can help improve their sales process, sales conversion process, and deal with what is often an uncomfortable conversation around pricing. And then number 2, we talk about how franchisors can help improve on their conversion process for bringing on more franchisees. So we kind of focus the conversation around those 2 things. Without further ado, hope you enjoy my conversation with Alan. Hello, Alan. Welcome to Franchise Euphoria. How you doing?
Doing great, Josh. Thank you so much for having me here.
Well, I'm excited to have you here. You got a tremendous background. And, I think that one of the things I want to focus this conversation on today is really how you can take your background, your experience in marketing and sales and strategy to help people in the franchise space, because I think you're uniquely positioned to do that in a couple of different ways. So, but before we dive right into that, obviously I gave a little bit of a background in the intro about what you've done, but how did you get into marketing and sales? So that's something you were always naturally good at, or is it something that you just kind of learned over time?
So it's a kind of a funny story. I was 18. I was working in the home remodeling industry, kind of still finding my way around what I was really going to do in life. And then I met this guy when I was about 19, and this guy was doing so well for himself. He was about 6 years older than me, and I was like, wow, what's this guy doing? I just need to know what he's doing. And he was the number 1 sales guy within this company that I worked within, and this is a company in the UK. And so I ended up trying to spend time with him while I was traveling about doing what I was doing within that industry. And then he got the opportunity to open an office. And I said, I want to come and work for you, and for you to teach me exactly what you do. So that was my kickoff into sales. And I actually learned to go knock on doors, make appointments, go in a home, sell something for £2,000 or £3,000, which is probably $3,000 or $4,000. And then from there, I expanded into understanding more and more about marketing, understanding more and more about sales. I went into marketing for a period of time, and wasn't doing sales at all. I ran the marketing for a national, as you mentioned, I ran the marketing for a national company in the UK, and then got transferred to the US to run the marketing here in the US on the East Coast, actually, before actually going back into sales. And we launched this very unique English sunroom on the East Coast that people loved. And I went back in the field selling it, and it was a high ticket item, $45,000, but just I sold about $10 million worth of them in 5 years. Just a great experience. Then I moved to the West Coast because I wanted to be in the sunshine all year round, and started my consulting business. So I started bringing all the marketing skills that I'd honed over a period of 20 years or 18 years, and then all the sales skills that I had into online marketing that transitions people into offline sales and things like that. Sometimes it's online sales too, and I've done some really magical things with my clients over the last 14 years.
Well, I love that you learned from the school of hard knocks in terms of, I mean, in terms of going,
Oh yeah,
like you said, door to door. There's nothing harder than door to door sales, right? So I used to, before I became a lawyer, and even before I went to law school and everything, between undergrad and law school, I worked in different sales and marketing positions, and one of those was sales where literally you'd walk into a business and try to sell them advertising
yeah,
into a booklet. And the thing about it is it really, for the people who stick with it, and become okay with rejection, and learn to have a spine, you realize that if you can sell, if you can market, that kind of skill set translates really across the board into any endeavor or business that you undertake.
that is so true. And the funny thing is, I mean, I experienced when I first started, I experienced so much rejection knocking on doors and people saying no, and most people polite, some people not so polite. Some people's dogs want to chase you down the garden path.
I was gonna say, how many dogs
Yeah,
bit you?
no dogs bit me. So a few dogs bit some of the people I was with at the time, but I was okay there. But you learn not to take it personally. That's the number one thing. So yes, you can definitely translate this into life skills when you manage to not take things personally and just realize, okay, it's just where they're at right now, and move on to the next person. And then when it comes to honing the craft of selling, you realize that it's something so valuable because it's just being able to communicate on a different level. And I don't believe in hard selling. I believe in being able to meet someone's needs, fully meet someone's needs. So over the years, you hone that and you craft that. And then the third thing in there, Josh, is that you realize that when it comes to money, it's only a number. So some people get so afraid of money when they're selling. It's like, oh my God, is my price too high or whatever? And sometimes you have to realize it's only a number. When I was selling these English sunrooms on the East Coast, it was like $45,000, sometimes $100,000. And I just
Wow.
programmed my mind to say, it's just a number. Who am I to go in there and say that this person who lives in this house in Great Neck, Long Island, that's worth $10 million, $100,000 is not a lot of money. It could be not a lot of money for them. So why am I making a judgment on it? And it really helped me diffuse the whole number myth of like, wow, something's so expensive. Well, it's the value of what it is the value of what it is to the person who wants to buy it. So some people buy Bentleys and some people buy Hyundai. So
Well, I think that's exactly right. And we talked a little bit off air about, the kind of tools that you utilize and that you have put together. You think that they're particularly applicable to a couple of different types of situations in franchising. Can you dive into that a little bit?
absolutely, yeah. So if there's a franchisee that's selling something, first of all, where they're generating appointments to make a sale, and and then specifically if they're selling something that what I call higher ticket things. So let's say they're in the closet business. They're maybe they're franchise business selling custom built-in closets, or they're in the bathroom kitchen, or the kitchen refacing space, or the bathroom remodeling space. There's a number of franchises within those spaces. Those would be higher ticket items higher ticket purchases that people are making, and the systems and structures that I have in place really allow companies to massively expand on how they're generating appointments, how the appointments are being confirmed and qualified, how the salespeople go into the home and pre-frame the conversation before they go into it, and then how they close the deal specifically. And again, I'm not into hard closing. I'm into bringing people to the conclusion of something that they truly want and desire anyway, and making it as simple for that transaction to happen as possible. And then from a franchisor standpoint, if they're selling any franchise company, they're typically a higher ticket item. Some franchises might start around 10,000, some be 25, some might be 150 or $250,000. But when you're the same thing applies when you're driving traffic to convert to leads, to nurture those leads, to qualify those leads, to then put them into a sales team, and then make that sale. The systems that I use with clients consistently, of which I've managed to generate an additional $30 million in revenue across my clients in 14 years, apply in that case too, because it's all it's a sequence of building a relationship, nurturing that relationship. And by the way, the relationship is not like it has to be a long-term thing. When I was selling the $45,000, $50,000 English Conservatory sunrooms on the East Coast, that was on a one-appointment close. I'd go there, meet with the people, I'd be with them for 3 hours, I'd walk out with a contract and a check, and we'd be done. But it's understanding the needs of the prospect that then brings them to being a client. So they're the two scenarios that I'd see that would benefit most from what we're going to talk about today.
Well, that's spot on, right? So, I mean, I think from the franchisee side, let's start there. Let's start with the franchisee side, as you said, the high ticket franchisee. Let's just use as an example. I know we're not talking about anybody specifically, but I think
Sure.
it helps with illustrations. Let's talk about the kitchen cabinet refacing. It's funny you mentioned that because literally right now we're redoing our kitchen and getting all new kitchen cabinets. So we're working with a company right now, so it kind of hits home there. But let's talk about that and what kind of process you bring to the table to help those folks.
Yeah, so I think maybe the best way for me to explain it would be to give you take you through a case study. So I have a case study of a replacement window company, actually. And this particular replacement window company, they're not a franchise, but they have dealers. So they're independent companies of a main. It's kind of a similar setup as a franchise. They're just not called franchises. And this particular company, they called me in and said, "Hey, we need more leads for our sales team. We've got this sales team of like 12 people, and we just need to fill them up with leads, and we're struggling to get more leads." So I said, "Okay, let me take a look at the business from a big picture perspective and see what really needs to happen here." So as I go in and I start delving, I'm looking at all these leads and I'm saying, "Okay, you got lots of leads. Yeah, you need more because a couple of salespeople aren't as busy as they should be, or some days are lighter than others. But where is there that you can really get growth here?" So I went out with a number of those salespeople on presentations and learned what they were doing, and I was like, okay, we need to train a few things in here with the sales team to improve conversion first, because driving leads into a poor conversion mechanism, whether that be a salesperson or an online something, is spending good money after bad, really. If you just keep driving more traffic and paying for more leads to go into a system that isn't optimal, then you could end up burning a lot of money and in some cases potentially going out of business if that's not monitored correctly. So with this particular company, the first thing I did was to retrain their sales team on how to take people through the final offer or the final presentation of money, and how to present money in a way that made it comfortable for people to make a decision. So that was the first thing we did, and we got a huge leap in revenues, 20% leap in revenues, just by making that adjustment. Then the second thing is,
So that's working with people after the lead comes in, but on the conversion process with the sales team.
correct, yeah.
Okay.
Then I step back into, let me look at the lead generation and see what's happening there, because I knew at the time the company was losing money, and if they continued to spend money at the rate they were, they would not be in business within 12 months. So then I stepped back and said, okay, well, I fixed this one point here, which is the conversion point. And I'm going to come to a couple of things that really make a difference when it comes to conversion in a moment. But then we stepped back and looked at the leads, and I was like, okay, well, you've got leads here. You've got money you're spending on lead generation, but you're not monitoring each individual lead source to see where you're getting the most revenue return from. So they were just spending for the sake of spending. I mean, there was calculations in it. There was a smart company doing $10 million a year. They've done well already. But they were so in their minds about wanting to spend more to get more leads that they kind of lost track of the fact that, well, if we spend money over here, the ROI is X. If we spend money here, the ROI is Y, and Y isn't as good as X in this particular case. So what actually happened was we actually end up reducing the number of leads because we cut out some of the wasteful marketing to start with. The sales still increased anyway by 20%, but we dropped 40%. We cut the marketing expenditure by 40% and dropped about $500,000 to their bottom line. Well, that enabled us to then look at other avenues to spend, and then put that additional money, or let's split that that profit into, not all of it, but put some of that profit back into other areas where it would be more ROI positive. So stepping back to the sales conversion, there are two things that when companies are selling anything that's larger ticket, and I say larger ticket, it could be something that's $1,000, it could be $2,000. Mostly it could be 5, 10, 25, or even more, money than that. But if we're talking about in the case of like a kitchen refacing or a bathroom remodeling type thing where they almost reface a bathroom, or a closet company or something like that, then and again, and you may know, obviously, Josh, you're big into the franchise space. So you may know other companies that are doing bigger ticket things where they drive to an appointment, etc. I'm just giving these examples.
Yeah, no, it's a good example. Yeah. It's a good illustration.
Yeah, I'm just giving these examples because I know that industry specifically, but it's not. It works in any industry. But there are two specific things when it comes to helping to get greater conversions. One is when someone first either having the conversation on the phone or they're having the conversation in person, if they're going into someone's home, as it were, is to pre-frame that conversation for where the conversation is going. Most people just, they go there, they just say, oh yeah, I'll measure this, I'll give you a price type of thing, or I'll look at this and then we'll give you a price, or, we're selling water softeners, or this is what it is and I'll just give you a price. And most people have got a presentation down, because especially in franchise organizations, there's a structure that comes down from the franchisor that enables them to have a selling system. But the conversation that happens before you're going into a presentation, I mean, actually, you're meeting with a person, but before you actually dive into that part of the presentation, is absolutely key. So someone understands in their mind what's really going to happen when we get through this entire thing. The second element to that is when it comes to presenting the price, and this is where a lot of people fall up, because they're very happy presenting the product and talking about the company and talking about case studies and testimonials and things like that. And when it comes to the price, they change their entire demeanor, and all of a sudden people start to feel awkward because it's like, oh, here comes the money part. And there's a specific system that I have that literally allows salespeople to feel so comfortable delivering the price, knowing that they are filling a need for someone, and knowing that they have a way to be able to help. It's more about helping someone get their desired result than it is about making the sale. It's about fulfilling someone's needs versus saying, oh, I want to make this sale, I want to make this sale. And it's so funny because the year that I made that distinction, by the way, which was 2001, I was selling for this company. I'd sold $1.25 million in the year 2000. And in 2001, I shifted my entire mindset from I want to make more sales and I want to sell them more and I want to make more commission to how do I just serve these people, regardless of whether they buy or not. I want to serve them on the highest level. And my sales in 2001 went from 1.25 million in 2000 to 2.56 million. It more than doubled. In 2001, I became the number one salesperson, and I made so much more money. And all it was just a shift in mindset of how I can serve people. So when it comes to presenting price, presenting the money part of things, if you understand how to present the the money part in such a way that it gives them the most options to get them what they truly desire, the sale becomes really, really easy, providing everything else.
Can you give an example of that? I think that's the biggest thing that is a hang
Yeah.
up for people. I mean, because it sounds like, when you do that, you really got to be careful on the front end that you're doing a
Mm-hmm.
good job
Mm-hmm.
explaining the value that they're going to
Yep.
be getting from the services that are being provided, which can then open them up to the idea of, here's the
Mm-hmm.
cost for that. I mean, is that sort of the process? Is that the way that you're preparing people for the
Yeah.
ask?
The process on the front end is really about asking. It's about asking lots of questions before you get into any presentation, so you can fully understand their needs, their desires, and why they want what they want. What difference is it going to make to them? What difference is it going to make in their life? And then from that part of the conversation, say, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to step through. We're going to tell you a little bit about the company. I'm going to show you some options here. We can design this whole thing out for you if we're designing something. Let's say it's a kitchen. We can design this whole thing out for you, and then once we get down to design that you truly love and you truly want, you truly desire, then what we can do is I'll be able to calculate a price for you, and then if and then once you get to see this, then you'll decide that this is what you want and you'd like to move forward. So it's letting them understand. Here we are at point A, and we're going to get to point Z, and this is how we're going to go through this entire thing. And all of it is about your needs and how I can get you exactly what you want, because that's all I'm interested in. You having exactly what you want, and I'm going to guide you along the way, because there's certain things and nuances that may support you in different ways, may be more beneficial for you in other ways, but the choice is still going to be yours. And as we come through this, then ultimately, if I'm bringing you something that you truly love, then we'll look forward to moving forward to getting this underway for you. So there's an assumption in there that we're moving forward anyway, and I get them in agreement up front in that phrase. But it's not a pushy thing. It's like if this happens and this happens and this happens, then this is where we're heading, and then they're nodding and saying yes to me. But if that's before I've even got into any, I'm not talking about the company yet. I'm not talking about the product yet or anything. I've got that agreement from the get go. And then when it comes to the close, and now we've gone through, now the person will gone through their presentation from a company to a product to benefits to examples to whatever else they're showing. Then when it comes to delivering price, then there's a number of different things, a number of different components related to this. One, some people just say, "Hey, here it is. It's whatever, $5,000, and it's we need 20% down, and then there's these stage payments of X." Other people are going to say, "Here's the option. There's a cash transaction, which is you put so much money down, and this is stage payments and blah 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 blah." And then here's some payment options. We have this finance option here that comes to $300 a month, and or this finance option here that comes to $226, right? But I like to take it one step further than that, and I start to talk about what other money resources that they have that we could potentially utilize. So, and this works whether we're talking from a franchisee selling a product, or whether we're talking about a franchisor selling a franchise. When you start to find out what money sources people already have, and you start to use those money sources, you can break something down to a much smaller number and make something more affordable. So let me give an example of that. When I was selling conservatories, I'm going to use a round number of $50,000 because it's easy to use. So I'd say to someone, so, we've got this option here. You can put 20% down, that's $10,000, and there's stage payments of XXX all the way through the job. That's option one. Then you've got option two is we've got two different payment plans. So we've got a 5-year payment plan, a 10-year payment plan. This one's $672 a month, and this one's $485 a month. And then I want to find out what their feeling is around that, how they're feeling, everything else. Well, it's a little bit more than I thought it was, and blah, blah, blah. And I know the value's there because I've built the value all the way along. So it's okay. So then I'd say to them, so let me ask you this. How are you thinking about paying for this? Well, we have a line of credit on our house. Oh, okay, great. So what's the interest rate on your line of credit? Well, it's 6%. Okay, great, 6%. So $50,000, 6%. So I just I get my calculator out, do a calculation. It's about $3,000 a year. That's $250 a month. I say, okay, well, if you use your line of credit, then basically you put the whole thing on the line of credit. And it's going to cost you $250 a month. Now I've just gone from it's $50,000, $10,000 down as stage payments, or I've gone from it was $874 here or $674 there, or with different finance options, to using their own money that they've already got access to anyway. And now I'm talking about $250 a month, which is half the money they're probably paying on a car. And I say, well, you can have this beautiful room your family's going to enjoy all these, Thanksgiving in, and just to enjoy, feeling like you're outdoors even though you're indoors, and so on and so forth. I'm just giving this an example for the rooms I used to sell for just $250 a month. And they go, wow, okay, that's great. And I say, okay, so when would you like us to start? And that's it. And that would be my close. But that made the biggest difference in it's understanding, it's being comfortable with it's being so comfortable with the money side of it. You can flow in that conversation like it's nothing, because all you're there to do is serve. You're there to serve these people to get them what they want. They called you in to start with. They want what you've got, providing you're the right company, obviously. But they want what you've got. So it's just a matter of making something compelling and affordable in filling their needs. And that's the way I go about it.
Well, and I think that makes sense. I can tell, why you were good at doing it, and it's a combination of a mindset, and it's a combination of tactics and strategy combined with the mindset to be utilized. Now, on the franchisor side of things, a hot topic for a lot of the people that I work with is, how do I get more franchisees? You've got a system, you've got a model, you've spent time, money, effort fine tuning that model, and I gotta imagine it would be similar, because it's what I find in certain aspects, because one thing I find with franchisors is sometimes they don't have a problem getting leads, but they have a problem closing leads. And sometimes that highlights problems internally with the sales conversion process, like you talked about earlier. But I'm curious. So tell me about your model for franchisors looking for more franchisees.
That would be that there's nuances there, because now we're talking a business to business transaction versus a business to, I say business to business. It's an individual to a business, but they're inherently a business transaction versus a consumer transaction. So the nuance is, they're driving leads. The key before you ever, and this does happen on the consumer side as well, by the way, but the key before you ever get into a conversation is to make sure that inquiry has a nurture sequence before the conversation. Now let me explain what I mean by a nurture sequence. There could be video, there could be written material, it could be emails, it could be a webinar. It could be something that helps them understand the true benefit of that particular company and that particular model, and how that would work for them specifically. And so that by the time they get on the phone with the salesperson to sell the franchise, they're already they're already in their world. They're already in that world, and they're like, "Wow, this sounds so amazing!" And da, da, da. Now, the benefit of having this indoctrination sequence, this way of adding knowledge and value to this individual before getting on the phone, is that material, whether that be in video, audio, webinar, or even written material. And ideally, it's in a combination of all, by the way, that never changes. Salespeople, they can be having a good day, can be having a bad day. Some salespeople are, really more assertive. Some salespeople are more laid back. But with the nurture sequence that leads into that conversation and the pre-qualifiers that you potentially take people through, that's consistent and that gets proven and tested, and it never changes. It's never going to change. Meaning, it's not having a good day or a bad day because it's already pre-recorded and pre-written and everything else. So that's the way. That's what, in any given situation with a high-ticket product of any kind, high-ticket product, high-ticket program, that nurture, that way of bringing people into your world is absolutely key in strategic influence, in what I call strategic influence.
It's also relational. It makes people feel like they know
Yep.
you and they have a comfort level with you before they've ever met you, which is huge when you're trying to ingratiate them into your franchise system.
Yeah. The second thing, Josh, I'm going to say is running prospects through a qualification process, so that the absolute hottest leads are delivered to the salespeople first. Because here's what happens. I'm going to give you an example of a company. This company was happened to be doing $10 million a year as well, but they were in a space selling a $10,000 program, and they were driving 3,000 leads a month. A lot of it organic, but actually another big chunk of it was through paid traffic. And they had a booking team, and the booking team were booking leads for the sales team. The booking team couldn't call 3,000 leads. They could call 400 or 500 leads in a month. So they had all these leads that were going by the wayside. And I said, look, you've got all of this traffic, all of these leads coming in here. And by the way, they had a 46-week sales cycle, which is a very long sales cycle from when someone gets a lead to someone makes a sale.
Yeah.
So what happened was that I said, okay, what we need to do is we need to find the people that are most interested, that have the most ability to spend this amount of money first. So we put this simple sequence in front of everything that's qualified certain people out, brought the cream to the top, put those people into the booking team. Now, the booking team are having a much better time because they're not trying to call 3,000 people and going, oh my God, I'm never going to get to, this 2,500 people that aren't going to make it here or whatever. And they were talking to the most highly qualified people, which then made them feel good because now they're booking solid appointments for the sales team. Then the sales team could feel better because they're not going, well, I know that I've got these leads all booked, but I don't know whether they're interested, I don't know whether they're interested now, interested later, whether they've got the money, don't have the money. So the salespeople didn't need to judge the lead anymore. So what happened was, in that particular case, we increased the sales revenue somewhere between, I think it was 18 or 20%. But most importantly, we decreased the actual sales cycle from 46 weeks down to 13 weeks. That's a massive, massive difference. Yeah, it's huge. And everybody else went into the nurture system. So we've got this nurture system, and everybody's being nurtured along the way. Everybody's being communicated to, and then when they hit that qualification point, then great, off they go into the booking team, into the sales team, and then move on from there. So they're two areas that make a huge difference when it comes to selling that type of program or system or franchise business specifically. So
Now, do you work with people one-on-one? I mean, how do you work, and how does your consulting work? Do you work with individual companies and individual franchisees, or how is your process set up?
Yeah, I work with individual companies, do everything one-on-one. There's no group. I don't do anything group. Everything's tailored to that individual business. because some businesses they just got different things going on. So I go in and I always look at big picture, and from the big picture, find the most opportunities. Like, okay, we can pinpoint this and drive cash immediately here, and then long term we can build something out that's going to drive a long-term stream of higher conversions, more cash, etc. from there. So yeah, that's how I work.
Well, I really have enjoyed having you on. I mean, I think that it almost deserves, a second part to this interview, because I think there's a lot of value to be added here. And we wanted to try to obviously talk about both, which we have, but I feel like we could even go deeper in another episode on both. But I think you've laid everything out really clearly in an articulate way. And it makes a whole lot of sense. If people want to learn more about you and what you do in your business, where can they find you?
Sure, they can go to my main website, which is Business Acceleration Strategies, which is very long to even try and type in, but Business Acceleration Strategies. Or if they want, I have the ultimate guide to a high ticket sales funnel. They could just go to highticketsalesfunnel.com and they can pick up that guide for free. And that lays out a lot of things in there.
Well, thank you for coming on and sharing all that information. I think it's real applicable, and I'm happy that we did it in a targeted way to two specific groups, because I think sometimes in sales and marketing, the theories kind of get lost in terms of application. And so I thought that, this is real specific. So thank you for doing that. Well, thank you for taking the time, and I look forward to hopefully having you on again.
Sure, that sounds great. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Thanks for being with us today on the Franchise Euphoria podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go to iTunes and provide a review. Also, please remember that although Josh Brown is a licensed and practicing attorney, nothing contained in this podcast should be construed as legal advice, because it is not. The information contained in this podcast is general and educational in nature, and none of it should be relied upon as legal advice. That being said, if you have questions for Josh and would like to contact him, please email him at josh@franchiseeuphoria.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you tune in to our next weekly episode.